Hey there, my name is AJ Pickett and I make videos about role-playing games, and lots of them. I upload twice a week with a live stream every weekend, bringing you the weird and wild ecologies and strategies and histories of Dungeons & Dragons monsters and cultures and locations. You can also find me on Subscribestar, Patreon and Discord, Facebook and Twitter. Also, there is an option to join the channel as a member, and I welcome any questions you have in the comments section as always. If you like this video or this channel, hit that like button if you would be so kind. Continuing on with the weird and wild creatures of Dungeons & Dragons history for December, one setting that is particularly packed with oddness is Spelljammer, which has some really game-breaking creatures, and this one is just wow. One question often asked in relation to Spelljammer, and this idea of a Dungeons & Dragons world like Toril, for the Forgotten Realms setting, being a planet within a solar system that itself is contained in a tremendously large crystal sphere that floats in a prime-material plane of rainbow-hued nebulous clouds, is, well, what are the stars that the people on the planet can see in the night sky? How do you explain all the constellations and stuff? One answer is that the dots of light, particularly in the case of the realmspace Toril sphere, dots of light are actually massive statues of unknown gods, perhaps they're all overgods, who stand on the inner surface of the crystal sphere in dizzying numbers, each holding aloft a massive chalice of fire that can be seen from very far away. Yeah, that's true, but that's not the case for all the stars and all the crystal spheres. And that's not the same in all the crystal spheres, each of which have their own little or rather big personal quirks. And yes, you're right, the answer is even stranger than giant statues on fire. Constellates are some of the largest living beings in the multiverse. They can destroy planets, potentially. Yes, that's right, the patterns in the stars in the sky that form figures associated with myths and legends are actually gigantic monsters that have stats, and you can fight them. This lore, and it is lore, it's legit, is brought to us on the pages of Monstrous Compendium Spelljammer Appendix No. 2, written primarily by Jeff Grubb and published in 1991 by TSR. And subtext, this may explain why Spelljammer is kind of a problematic setting to bring to life in 5th edition. The Monstrous Compendium books are all printed with 5 hole-punched pages so that they can be collected in Monstrous Compendium ring binders, and are one of the best product lines ever made for Dungeons & Dragons. It's a good part of why 2nd edition AD&D in its later days will always be played as the edition of choice by so many gamers. Granted, 5th edition has all the monsters available at the swipe of a finger on D&D Beyond, but the Monstrous Compendiums are physical. They're just much sexier. So, quoting directly from the original page, the peaceful constellates are made of small motes of light gathered in constellations, groupings of stars that suggest various objects and life forms. Surrounding each constellation is the ghostly image of the thing it represents, the constellate proper. These ghostly images depict wolves, swords, warriors, figures from myth and legend, and the like. Individual star colours may vary, but most are bluish-white. The colour may relate to their age, it's unknown. No single star has ever been separated from its constellate group. Each constellation in a sphere's night sky is a constellate. They occupy their assigned positions, swapping choice information about the goings-on of the groundling races below, or lamenting their eternal celestial imprisonment. The advent of spelljamming ships, not so long ago from their perspective, has created new gossip for these beings and increased their overall morale. Although they converse freely among themselves using telepathy, they never speak to corporeal lifeforms. Attempts to imprison and interrogate constellates fail. They don't deign to talk to lesser beings, and they simply change size to escape from any imprisonment. Sages dispute the true genesis of the constellates, of course. Some postulate that they existed as long as the stars in the night sky. Others point to krynn space, where new constellations appeared and old ones disappeared in the War of the Lance. Still others talk of the influence of divine entities, and that's something we'll talk about fairly soon. There's one specific group of prime-material plane nomads, a race called the Appaloosa, who look just like humans, who have some sort of a deeper connection to the constellates and actually hold the ancient and deeply secret knowledge of certain spells that can summon a constellate. Why the Appaloosa people have such an affinity is a tantalizing mystery, somewhat of a terrifying one. They have and never will divulge the spells of summoning, and with the constellates as allies, it's unlikely that anyone will ever force this knowledge from the wild space nomads anytime soon. If an Appaloosa clan leader summons a Constellate, its nature changes radically. Witnesses see an immense shadowy figure shaped like the constellation drop down from the heavens. The stars diffuse and move randomly within the Constellate's body. It will change size at will, but usually to maintain its size relative to the viewer's perspective. For instance, the Panther Constellate seems to remain panther-sized whether in the night sky or on a ship's deck or on the ground. The Constellate gains the special abilities of that character it represents, such as an animal or an object that it's portraying. For example, the Swan could use wing beats, and the krynn space constellation of Raceland, or Fistandantilus, because he has a constellation there, could use time stop. Constellates normally choose to avoid battle when possible because their capabilities are so extreme. The gods will certainly get involved and severely censure the Constellates in question if things get out of hand, even though they have the excuse of saying, "I was summoned by this spell that I could not resist." If some shipload of mortals seeks combat with one, the Constellate will flee the area, causing great confusion among astronomers who will observe a whole cluster of stars suddenly move across the night sky all at once. Once the disturbance is past, the Constellates always seek to return to their assigned position in the night sky once again. The reason why gods get involved is because there is nothing stopping a Constellate from engaging in combat at up to its full real size. This real size can cover millions of square miles, and the full-size Constellate can use its enormous bulk to crush targets, causing 2d20 points of bludgeoning damage per 1,000 square miles of its real surface area. It can deliver this crushing attack anywhere across its entire area as often as once every second melee round of combat. Constellates can also generate and throw blasts of energy called sunbolts with unerring accuracy. Sunbolts take the form of a cone-shaped energy blast with an area of 1,000 miles in diameter, which cause 2d12 points of radiant damage per 1,000 square miles of the Constellate's surface area, and have an effective range of 500,000 miles, with the damage not decreasing at all across that entire distance. Close range is considered to be up to 125,000 miles. Medium range is up to 250,000 miles, and it suffers from long-range penalties to hit beyond that, up to the maximum distance of 500,000. The Constellate can fire a sunbolt once per round, even at the same time that it's using its crushing blow attack. Since the astounding size of the Constellates can range between 1 million and 100 million square miles, their sunbolts and crush attacks are capable of literally pulverizing a planet. Some believe the Grinder asteroid belt, found in the greyhawk setting grey space sphere, is all that's left of a planet within that star system that was the target of a Constellate attack. It seems likely that the legends of such events and their consequences are also true, and that the gods will retaliate against the offending Constellate, physically evicting them from the crystal sphere to wander forever in the endless, colourful phlogiston beyond. There has never been a Constellate attack that has lasted longer than 5 rounds of combat. There has never been a need for a Constellate to attack longer than that, and as far as anyone knows, a Constellate can never be summoned more than once per full year. If you do even the basic math on those attacks and the damage they inflict, we're talking millions of points of damage. There are very few beings that can withstand firepower of that magnitude. Gods, of course, just bypass it completely and employ both conventional magic, expanded to huge proportion using their metamagic powers, or they just manipulate space and time to transport and banish the Constellate fairly swiftly, considering how much damage one can do in such a short period of time. Thankfully, Constellates are not very intelligent. Their intelligence is around 5 to 7, and their alignment is almost invariably neutral. There's no point describing their armor class or hit points. They are not hard to hit, but they are physically impossible for anything below a greater god to physically harm in any significant way. They are utterly without fear, they move at enormous speeds through wild space, have accurate sensory abilities over vast distances, they don't need to eat or drink, don't converse with anything other than each other and true divine beings, and they are disturbingly commonplace within crystal spheres. What purpose they serve is a bit of a mystery. Perhaps they are useful to the gods in ways beyond mortal understanding. Perhaps they will serve interesting roles in their own campaigns. Personally, I think they have their place in the D&D multiverse, for sure. If anything, they serve to demonstrate that there is always a bigger fish. They can also demonstrate the true power of the greater gods and why one simply does not mess with them. The fact that gods can shift the constellates and thereby change the constellations in the night sky plays a huge role in your games, providing a spectacular method of the gods to send signs and signals and portents to mortals. Also, one can't help but wonder, were the constellates some sort of cosmic pack animals or construction crew that were used to create the crystal spheres in the first place? Which would explain why they're still there and why they're so numerous. Who knows? Food for thought, though. It may be possible for a band of adventurers to discover a very secret and rare method of telepathically communicating with a constellate, who might perhaps be duped into thinking it's talking with a strange new member of its own kind, and therefore divulge all sorts of knowledge about the worlds below and what is currently going on everywhere within that particular sphere. Perhaps a constellate could play a crucial role in protecting a planet from a cosmic disaster, such as an asteroid or rogue elemental lord or undead planetoid or tyrannical cloud, or tyrannid cloud, or whatever. It could also be a lot of fun discovering some world-shattering disaster is on its way, and the only hope is to find a means to get into Wildspace and then track down the nomadic Appaloosa people to seek out their secrets and their help. All sorts of mind-boggling cosmic possibilities to ponder. Please hit the like button if you made it this far. Subscribe if you like what I do. Check out my Subscribestar or Patreon for all the full scripts for these videos. Buy some Teespring merchandise for Christmas. Wear your geek with pride, and as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.